Good afternoon, everyone, or morning, depending on your time zone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Katie Poser. I'm the Outreach Librarian for the NOAA Central Library, and we're very excited to have you today for our second installment of the Science Communication Through the Arts seminar series. And with that, I'm very excited to introduce Kelly Samick, who is the program officer with NOAA Sea Grant, and she's going to introduce our speakers and the topic today.
All right, thanks, Katie. As she said, I'm Kelly Samick with the NOAA National Sea Grant Office, here to introduce today's program. Around the country, Sea Grant programs are enlisting artists in the quest to better understand our coastal communities and to raise awareness about the threats and challenges they face. This hour will highlight exemplary artistic programming led by Georgia Sea Grant and the University of Hawaiʻi Sea Grant College program. Emily Kenworthy has been with Georgia Sea Grant since 2016 and oversees its communications program. She works to increase the visibility of the unit by coordinating internal and external communications needs, including working with staff to develop print and digital publications, managing the unit's website and e-newsletter, and writing stories about research, education, and extension projects. She has her bachelor's degree in English from North Carolina State University and a master's in professional communication and leadership from Georgia Southern University. And Rosa is the marine science education specialist working with the Hawaiʻi Sea Grant Center of Excellence in Marine Science Education. The CMSE provides leadership and support to formal and informal educational institutions and organizations through the education of scientists, professionals, teachers, and the public about the benefits of wise and sustainable stewardship of coastal and ocean resources in Hawaii and the Pacific region. She earned a bachelor's degree in environmental and evolutionary biology from Dartmouth College and a master's degree in educational technology from UH Mānoa, and has been with Hawaiʻi Sea Grant since 2007. Before turning it over to them, I want to provide some basics about the National Sea Grant College program for those who might not be familiar. Sea Grant's mission is to enhance the use and conservation of coastal, marine, and Great Lakes resources to create a strong and sustainable economy, a healthy environment, and resilient and inclusive communities. That mission is operationalized by a partnership between NOAA and 34 programs established in every coastal and Great Lakes state, Puerto Rico, and Guam. On this map, the blue bird symbol denotes a program's headquarters, usually at a university, and the white pushpins approximate places where extension personnel with that program are located to serve the local community. Sea Grant uses a three-part approach to achieving its mission. These core functions of research, extension, and education means we fund research, utilize locally based extension agents to transfer the results of that research and others' research to end users, and we provide training and development for a diversity of audiences in our coastal communities. Although most people know Sea Grant as a science organization, I think relevant to today's topic, it's worth noting that part of the congressional intent in authorizing the program is to promote, quote, multidisciplinary approaches to environmental problems. As broad in scope as it is, Sea Grant characterizes the bulk of its work through the lens of four national focus areas: healthy coastal ecosystems, resilient communities and economies, sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, and environmental literacy and workforce development. Arts programming can have a role in advancing our strategic goals and objectives for each of these focus areas. Before hearing in depth from our speakers today, I want to provide just a taste of the diversity of arts engagement Sea Grant has had over the years. By no means an exhaustive list, this includes offering competitive funding, mounting special exhibits, adding artwork to our educational information, and telling artists stories about their aquatic and coastal connections through various media. My apologies if you do not see your favorite Sea Grant arts initiatives listed here. As I noted, this is but a few examples, and I invite you to visit your local Sea Grant program's website to learn how they may have promoted the arts through their programming. And with that, I'm going to hand the floor over to Emily.
Thank you, Kelly, for that introduction. I am excited to talk with you all today about Georgia Sea Grant's Artists, Writers, and Scholars program. As she mentioned, I am the PR coordinator for Georgia Sea Grant. I oversee our communications program. Before I dive into our Artists, Writers, and Scholars program, though, I want to talk a little bit about Georgia Sea Grant and touch on some of the locations that we have, facilities that we have across the state. So the mission of Georgia Sea Grant is similar to many other Sea Grant programs across the network. We work to improve the environmental, social, and economic health of the coast through research, education, and extension efforts. We have facilities across the state. Up in Athens is our headquarters office. And then we also have 3 coastal facilities. 2 are based on Skidaway Island. This is our Marine Education Center and Aquarium and our Shellfish Research Lab. At the aquarium, that's what I often refer to as our environmental education hub. That's where we have a team of marine educators who host school groups throughout the year who come on site. They get to learn about different types of marine science, coastal ecology classes. They get to go out and explore the salt marsh, learn how to study it. They get to go out on skiffs to different barrier islands and see those unique habitats. We also have our aquarium there, obviously, and we usually see around 25 to 30,000 visitors at that facility on an annual basis. So there's a lot of education and outreach and public engagement happening at that facility on Skidaway. Also on Skidaway, we have our Shellfish Research Lab. That's where we have extension specialists that are doing a lot of work in oyster aquaculture research. They're also doing a lot of work with oyster restoration research in coastal Georgia. Down in Brunswick is where most of our extension specialists are based. They have expertise in a variety of topics from sustainable land use, fisheries extension, stormwater management, coastal ecology research, marine debris education, and outreach. And for 50 years, our staff and Sea Grant funded researchers have worked to get science-based information into the hands of stakeholders we work with. And in 2021, we launched the Artists, Writers, and Scholars program aimed at cultivating new connections and engaging communities through art. So as I mentioned, we launched this program 3 years ago. It supports Georgia artists to create professional quality art and literature that increases awareness of Georgia's marine environments or helps document the history, culture, or heritage of the Georgia coast. It's a year-long funding opportunity. We circulate an RFP and applicants submit proposals, and then we have a review panel that goes through all of the applications and selects top projects based on their alignment with the RFP as well as our strategic plan. The goals of the Artists, Writers, and Scholars program are fairly straightforward. It's designed to create a bridge between art and science, and it's designed to use art to educate and inspire audiences to value coastal ecosystems and human communities. So since we launched the program, we have funded 10 different projects. These projects represent a variety of visual and performing art. Some of the deliverables that have been created include paintings, metal sculptures, ceramics, photography, illustrations, and even a musical ensemble and a dance film. We've funded artists working throughout the state, including Atlanta, Athens, Statesboro, and Savannah. Awardees have various backgrounds. We have funded biology, art, history professors. We've funded early career professional artists who are just starting out, as well as more established artists who have decades of experience and have showcased their work internationally. It's really exciting to see that a program like this appeals to such a broad array of individuals who have different backgrounds and bring new perspectives to the table. And we work really hard to connect all of the artists that we have funded with our in-house experts as well as Sea Grant funded researchers so that they can help provide direction and guidance to our awardees on subject matter and ensure scientific accuracy in the work that's created. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about 3 of the projects that we have funded that have led to some creative partnerships and some neat exhibitions. So the first I'll touch on is titled A Metal Artist's View of the Marine Carbon Cycle. This is a project by Barbara Mann. She is an Athens-based metal artist who creates work that's inspired by nature. And for her project, she proposed creating several pieces that represent the plankton community, the marine carbon cycle, and oyster growth and development. So when I found out about Barbara's project, I immediately wanted to connect her with folks on our team that work in the areas of plankton and oysters. So I arranged a visit for her to the coast in the fall of 2021. She was able to tag along with volunteers who participate in our plankton monitoring citizen science program. On a weekly basis, these citizen scientists go out to the Skidaway River behind our aquarium facility. They collect samples and document different types of phytoplankton species as well as abundance, and they submit that data to NOAA as part of the phytoplankton monitoring network. So Barbara was able to draw inspiration from these volunteers as she shadowed them for the day. She saw different species of local plankton under the scope. She was also able to tour our shellfish lab during her visit and learn about how oysters grow, how we're growing single oysters for the restaurant oyster farming industry. And the experience gave her insight and inspiration into the biology and ecology of the animals that she was able to incorporate into the pieces that she created. So in the bottom two photos here, the one on the left is of Triceratium. Hope I'm saying that right. I'm not a phytoplankton expert, but it's a common marine phytoplankton that's found on the coast. And in the photo on the bottom left, this is a piece that she created inspired by that microscopic image that we actually took in our lab from one of our samples. And it's a metal piece that's cast in copper, showing a Triceratium. And I'll just go back really quickly. The photo on the top left is a doliolid. The one on the bottom left is a coccolithophore. The photo on the right is a piece that she created. It's an oyster vessel that's cast in silver, and she actually cast that oyster from a recycled shell at our shellfish research lab. So Barbara's goal with her artwork is to help non-scientists understand general, simple view of more complicated topics like how oysters grow their shells, as well as the intricacy of plankton's form and patterns. It's really neat to see how the exchanges she had with our folks on the coast shaped her outputs, and it's clear that her pieces have been directly inspired by our work. So we then collaborated with Barbara to host a temporary exhibition at our aquarium facility. We called it Forging Connections, a metal artist's view of the marine carbon cycle. Her pieces were on display between mid-August and mid-October of last year, and her pieces were actually on site during our largest on-site event of the year, Skidaway Marine Science Day, which was attended by more than 1,200 individuals. So her pieces got quite a bit of exposure, and it's led to lasting partnerships with our volunteers and our staff and other collaborators who worked with us along the way. For our next artist, I'm going to talk about Kip Bradley's project, Capturing Seasonal and Artistic Changes in the Marsh. So Kip Bradley is a Savannah-based plein air painter. And for his project, he painted 6 highly visible, well-known salt marsh landscapes along the coast 4 different times over the course of a year. I'm sure many of you have heard of using time-lapse photography to capture changes or monitor changes to a particular area over time. Kip's project essentially takes a creative spin on that, in that he is painting these sites to capture these seasonal changes over the course of a year. One of the deliverables that Kip created as part of his project is a coffee table book that documents his process and talks about the inspiration that he drew from each of these sites. He picked highly visible, well-trafficked sites with the intent of meeting people who were visiting these places while he was out painting, so he could share what he was doing with visitors, and also create connections with them and hear their stories about what connects them to these spaces and inspires them to visit these locations. And he incorporated some of those anecdotes into his booklet. One of the added benefits of our collaboration with Kip, we launched a program last year called Finding Meaning in the Marsh. And the intent behind this program series is to connect people to nature in creative ways. We reached out to Kip, who agreed to teach the art portion of this series. And as part of the program, he introduced basic color theory and color mixing exercises to help participants observe color shifts in the marsh. It included hands-on demos and exploration of the marsh along the nature trail at our aquarium facility. So based on the popularity of this series, it's something we're going to continue to do on an annual basis, and we're really excited to bring in a lot of the artists we've funded as part of the Artists, Writers, and Scholars program who can participate, share their processes and inspirations with participants. So the last project I'll touch on is called Using Art to Enhance Habitat. It's a project by Casey Schachner. She is an art professor at Georgia Southern University who works a lot with ceramics. And for Casey's project, she wanted to create sculptures using a native algae material that's actually harvested from coastal waterways. And she's harvesting algae from the Skidaway River. So she mixed this algae with a local Isella clay found in Georgia to create bioceramic sculptures. The original idea for her project was to create these pieces, showcase them at some sort of public exhibit, and then recycle her pieces by deploying them into our estuaries, creating some sort of art piece that could serve as substrate upon which to form an oyster reef. So I'm a big oyster nerd. We've obviously got a lot of folks at our shellfish research lab who are big oyster nerds, and I immediately wanted to connect her with those individuals to think about ways of trying to enhance this project or do a little bit more with it. So we got her to visit our lab and meet with Justin Manley, who's in the image on the top left. He's our oyster hatchery manager. He's also the father of millions and millions of oyster larvae in the lab when they're in spawning season in the spring and summer. So connected him with Casey. He got really excited about her project and offered to set up sort of a mini experiment in the lab where we took some of her pieces and essentially tested out to see how well they recruited oysters, to see how well they served as substrate for oysters and settling oysters. And they found after a couple of weeks that the pieces were actually really successful at serving as substrate. It's sort of hard to see, but in this photo on the bottom right, there's a bunch of little black specks. That's actually tiny baby oyster spat that have settled on one of the pieces. So when we saw that, we were really excited and wanted to think about how we could showcase these pieces at our aquarium facility again as part of a temporary exhibition. So I hooked her up with Lisa Kovalanchik, who's our aquarium curator. We came up with the idea of launching Submerged, an underwater exhibition of bioceramic artwork. Lisa had the ingenious idea of taking some of her sculptures and actually deploying them, submerging them in some of our display tanks at the facility. So Casey worked with a class, a group of students that she was teaching a ceramics class to at Georgia Southern. All of them created pieces to be deployed into our tanks. And Lisa, our curator, helped guide Casey's students in the type of structures that would be most appropriate for tanks based on the type of animals that were in those tanks and would be using them as habitat enrichment. So all in all, we ended up with a couple of dozen pieces that we were able to put into our tanks, and we launched this public exhibition in June and July of 2023. Over the course of that 2-month period, in the summer, which is our highest trafficked season, around, I think it was 9,300 visitors were able to see this public display, which was really exciting for us. And the project has not only provided meaningful public exposure for artists who are early on in their careers, but it also formed important relationships between our team and Casey. She recently returned to teach our aquarium staff how to harvest the algae and use it with different types of clay mixtures. And our staff's going to use this information and incorporate it into curriculum for K-12 students, and also incorporate it into family activities in the programming that we lead at this facility. So the last thing I want to touch on with regards to the program, or a couple of last things, I have a few more slides I'm going to slip in here, but a really exciting achievement recently is that we've been able to partner with Ships of the Sea Maritime Museum in downtown Savannah to host a special collaborative exhibition that features all of the artwork that's been produced over the last 3 years as part of our Artists, Writers, and Scholars program. The exhibition, called Waves of Wonder, is running from June 5th to September 3rd, which is the height of tourism season in Savannah. It's going to get quite a bit of visibility. We just had a kickoff party a couple of weeks ago, and it was attended by several hundred visitors, and these photos are from that kickoff party. The energy in the room, the excitement that was shared by everyone who's worked on growing this program, including the artists we funded, has been really fantastic. All 10 of the projects that we have featured are included as part of this exhibition. So there's a mix of, captivating and evocative imagery. There's vibrant colors, sounds, intricate interpretations that portray the essence of Georgia's coast. So if you're visiting Savannah between now and September 5th, make sure to get over to Ships of the Sea and check out this presentation. If we have any folks in the Sea Grant Network that are on the call that are going to be attending Sea Grant Week in August in Savannah, we do have an event at Ships of the Sea Maritime Museum, and we'll get to see some of these pieces in person. So get excited about that. Few broader impacts that I'll just sort of touch on to wrap us up. When it comes to public programming, this program, Artists, Writers, Scholars, has allowed us to offer more art-centric programming now that we have access to this diverse network of amazing artists. Statewide exhibitions, I didn't touch on this as much, but a lot of the artists that we have funded have hosted several smaller exhibitions at galleries across the state and even in South Carolina, which is broadening the visibility of the program and overall impact. Student engagement, I mentioned with Casey's project that a lot of the work that was created by students was featured in the Submerged exhibition. So they can add this to their portfolios. It's making them more marketable as early career professionals. We've had at least 2 other awardees who work closely with classes or graduate students to develop their projects. So it's giving them great experience and exposure. And then finally, when it comes to habitat restoration, I think the fact that we have some pieces that Casey's developed that'll eventually be deployed and recycled to create a new reef, a new habitat, and enhance coastal ecosystem health, I think is a pretty significant benefit of the program, and one that I'm personally very excited about. So with that, I'll just note that we're seeing a steady increase in the number of applications we're receiving. This program continues to grow every year. We received 17 applications during our most recent call for proposals, and our review panel is going to be meeting in the next couple of weeks to go over those projects and select them. You can learn more about our Artists, Writers, and Scholars program by visiting our website. You can scan this QR code. You can shoot me an email. Happy to talk in more detail about any of these projects. Just before I wrap us up, I want to give a big shout out to Mona Bell, who's our Associate Director at Georgia Sea Grant. This program was really her brainchild. She got it off the ground and does a lot of the behind the scenes work to keep it running. So she's been an amazing asset to launching this program. And I just want to make sure to give her a shout out for all of the incredible work that she has done with it. With that, I'll wrap us up and pass it on to Anne.
Hallelujah, that's so awesome. Thank you. Aloha mai kako o Anania Rosa ko'ui noa no Maunalua Oʻahu mai au. Aloha everyone, I'm Anne and I grew up in Maunalua on the island of Oʻahu with Hawaiʻi Sea Grant. I'm going to be sharing ways that Hawaiʻi Sea Grant has been engaging in arts and sciences, from pop-up events to annual exhibits, fellowships, and more. And starting in spring of 2021, we became more intentional about incorporating the arts into our programming. Being in Hawaii and the Pacific, wana nui akea, as we say, our understanding of land and ocean and water cycles is deeply rooted in cultures that interweave science and art seamlessly. And I'd like to acknowledge my colleague Beth Lenz for her leadership in Hawaiʻi Sea Grant Art and Science Programming. Hawaiʻi Sea Grant hired Dr. Beth Lenz as the Assistant Director for Diversity and Community Engagement. Over the last 3 years, she's been facilitating community engagement that embraces the arts and sciences together. And I hope that by sharing the variety of ways that we're engaging, you'll be inspired and motivated, and would also love to hear from you on all your projects, programs, and future ideas, and learn from you. So this image is a cover of our Hawaiʻi Sea Grant Free Biennial magazine. It's called Kapili Kai, All Things Related to the Sea. And for our wet season or ho'oilo issue in 2021, we dedicated the magazine to the relationship of art and science. And it's to emphasize the interdependent relationship of the two practices. And I'll share the first part of the dedication in Olelo Hawaii and English as it articulates some of the Hawaiʻi mana'o, or thinking about art and science. Mai ka moana a kea na ʻāina a puni, from the vast ocean, the many lands, ka levalani a ka levalipo, the highest heavens and the depths of the sea, ua mālamalama ke au kanaka I ka vilipu ia o ka hana noʻeau me ke ake aka mai. The world is enlightened by the collaboration of the arts and sciences. In this Kapili Kai issue, we provide an extensive overview of the ways that art is embedded in our everyday lives and how we can recognize, value, and celebrate this. We highlight our Hawaii-based high school student photo competition, as well as cultural practices such as kapa, clothing and textiles with local companies, education and training in the culinary arts, and collaborations between artists and scientists and poets. And we highly recommend this as a starting off point to look at our program and how we're engaging with the arts. So you can scan the QR code for a digital copy, and you can also sign up for our mailing list if you'd like to. In 2022, we got pop-up events off the ground. And for example, on World Ocean Day, we teamed up with a local artist named Jenny Floro at Ben Franklin's craft store, and the University of Hawaii Mānoa graduate student then, and now she's Dr. Fareza Corazon Cabrera, who studies the genetics and computational biology of limu, or algae in Hawaii. And Jenny was able to lead a 2-hour art class that was inspired by limu pressings and limu biology shared by Dr. Rosa. And here you can see the paper collages and alcohol inks of limu and the image of Dr. Isabella Iona Abbott, who's the first Native Hawaiian to receive a PhD in the sciences and who's known as the First Lady of Limu. We found that this type of activity drew participants from diverse backgrounds, occupations, and interests, and the energy was really positive. People were really interested in learning while creating. And this is a great activity to do for kind of a lower commitment and interactive engagement, and would recommend identifying a local artist already hosting classes and maybe approaching, asking to see if they'd like to partner for a one-time series or to pair with scientific researchers. And following the pop-up art class in 2022, we hosted a variety of events to continue in the celebration of the Year of the Limu. And so there were murals, art exhibits, culinary arts, television, and Hawaiʻi Sea Grant celebrated the Year of the Limu with our partners and local communities in this way. And on the right-hand side, you can see the Kamehameha School's Kapalama Campus High School Mural Club. And they're mentored by their kumu Bozshur, their art teacher, who prepared and painted a limu mural for a local canoe club, Keahiakahoi. They did their homework, their research. The process of making the mural included learning about the limu and the place and the meanings to the canoe club that were significant to celebrate. And this was a great example of bringing art and science to the service of the community as the students were learning. And this mele, or Hawaiian song, Ka'uluwehi o ke kai, is one of the most well-known songs about limu in modern-day Hawaii. This mele was performed by Kavela Ferrant at Hawaiʻi Sea Grant at Sea Grant Week. And this was a way that we could bring art and science of Hawaii to share with our networks and colleagues from around the continent. Mele or oli, song and chant are both a repository and living expression of Hawaiian ike, or understanding, ways of thinking and knowledge. And it's a way that Kanaka Oiwi, or Hawaii indigenous people, traditionally share knowledge and perpetuate knowledge over time. It's passed down over generations. And one of the things that we do is look to these mele and oli for ike, or understanding and knowledge about what we're studying. And this can be insight gained and a way to hear the words of indigenous scientists, past and present. And being able to connect to our kupuna, our ancestors, and perpetuate culture is one of the ways that we deepen an understanding of place. And so one of the marine education areas that we work with is Hanauma Bay on the island of Oʻahu. And here you can see an image of the place names of Hanauma Bay. And one of those place names is Ihi Ihi Lauakea. So if you know more about the place names and you know more about the local ecology, for example, this little water fern that grows in Hanauma Bay. And as someone teaching about ocean conservation and science at Hanauma Bay, one of our wahipana, or storied and special places on Oʻahu, one of the ways of expressing aloha ʻāina, or love of the land, is through composition of oli, or chants. This oli was composed to honor Hanauma and to be able to welcome schools and community groups that practice Hawaiian protocol. As a call and response, the class will often oli before they enter, and then we will be able to answer them. Another way to perpetuate a sense of place and share about the local ecology in Waikiki that Hawaiʻi Sea Grant worked on is through visual arts in the form of a puzzle. A local company called Surf Chat Puzzles that uses recycled materials was developed during the pandemic and works with women artists in Hawaii. We approached the company and identified Lauren Trangmar to work with us, given her interest in natural history, art, and schematics. In a span of about 8 months, Lauren and Beth collaborated with Hawaiʻi Sea Grant faculty, staff, and partners to develop the Ahupua'a of Waikiki puzzle. It has a legend to identify the names in Olelo Hawaii and the binomial names and English names of organisms and locations. University of Hawaiʻi Mānoa, and our office is located in this mountain to ocean land district, or ʻāhupua'a in Hawaiian. And we're excited to present an illustration of our endemic native and non-native organisms to help people be familiar with, as well as showcase the ways we use this space and sustain us through our work and play. And we also have a use of improv to improve our science communication. Our Sea Grant graduate research fellows are supported by the biennial research competition, and we provide professional development training to the cohort. We emphasize the importance of science communication and storytelling, and we require our students to give scientific as well as general public presentations. And so in preparation for the public presentations, we invite the local improv theater group based in Honolulu called Think Fast Improv to share exercises that help our students engage in active listening, work on public speaking, and strengthen their storytelling skills. While it can be a little bit daunting to students who are methodical, we have found that these trainings really help our students become stronger public speakers, and their talks become better tailored to the broad audiences that they're presenting to. And they can apply analogies and personalize their stories to hook the audience and share the research that they're doing. And like Georgia Sea Grant, so far we've been organizing art exhibits. These are annual art exhibits that run for a full month in November. They're free and open to the public, and they're located on the island of Oʻahu in the historic Chinatown district in Honolulu at a venue known as Arts at Mark's Garage. It's been a great partnership with this venue as an exhibit space as well as a performance space, and we're able to hold events throughout the month of November. In 2022, we hosted a call for artists and received over 20 applications from local artists who have strong connections to Hawaii. We selected 3 artists to highlight: Michelle Schwingle Regala, Boz Scher, and Shanae Tam from left to right in the picture with Beth Lenz. And we provided a service agreement, gave them funding to collaborate with our program and rent the exhibit space. And we gave them options to choose from by giving them an overview of different activities that our program does, from marine education to coastal hazards, healthy coastal ecosystems, aquaculture, fisheries, etc. Shanae and Boz are both work in multiple media, from murals to painting, illustration, and digital. And Shanae chose to work with our aquaculture team and Hawaiian fishponds, and our Pua Bootcamp project, which is working to raise mullet fingerlings in land-based nursery systems that's fed by the fish pond water in a multi-trophic system. And she developed 4 large paintings that captures the aspects of Hawaiian fish ponds, traditional practices, aquaculture, and restoration of local i'a. And Boz is a high school art teacher, so she gravitated to our Hanauma Bay education program and conducted site visits, met with our staff and volunteers to develop ceramics and digital murals and illustrations and paintings. And Michelle Schwingle Regala is a fiber artist who works closely with yarn and textiles. And she has her own career as an artist who's engaged in marine science. And she was actually a NSF-supported artist that went to Antarctica at McMurdo to collaborate with scientists like Dr. Amy Moran, who studies sea spiders. Michelle was intrigued by algae, and in celebration of the Year of the Limu, she knitted anatomically correct limu of various species and depicted the diversity of red, green, and brown algae. And for last year's exhibit, we decided to do a call for artwork where we actually requested anybody who's connected to marine and coastal sciences and conservation to submit their works of art. So it was free. There was no submission fee, and we provided the space and the opportunity for them to sell their art. Some of them actually chose to raise funds for the UH Foundation Maui Strong, and they were able to raise over $1,000 to benefit. We were able to feature 32 artists, over 90 pieces of artwork that included illustration, microscopy, ceramics, photography, composites, kappa. And at opening night, we drew in over 400 people. And we also had our resource management specialist at NOAA, Dr. Kaipo Perez, in fisheries, and he's a UH Mānoa alum as well, and he is a talented musician and another example of scientists as artists to play on our opening night. And for this upcoming exhibition this year, the theme will be marine debris, giving the large funding for prevention and removal project from NOAA Sea Grant in Hawaii. And here are some of the photos from our events sprinkled through the month. There's an art exhibit space, but there's also a space to give presentations. So we had on the left, graduate student Louis Chua Bing Chow shared his work on how economists put value of natural resources. And we also had a screening of our Voice of the Sea television episode called Limu Love, and had a top story session, question and answer session with an expert panel that included UH graduate students, Hawaiʻi Sea Grant faculty, Dr. Kanisa Duncan Seraphin, and our community partner from ʻāina Ulu Awamo, Malia Hemuli. These events had an audience size ranging from about 40 to 75 people each night, and it's been an exciting and meaningful way to connect with folks and find a connection to love of science and art. At one of the events, a high school student approached our program and shared that while he really enjoyed art and enjoyed science, he'd never seen it together and was excited to know that this exists. And we're grateful that the NOAA Library Series has invited us. We're also excited to share the early work we've been doing in this space, and would like to connect with others involving this intersection, or those who are curious or wanting to get involved. And just wanted to share a few examples of working within the Sea Grant Network. And before we launched our first Sea Grant Sci Art exhibit, we collaborated with the National Sea Grant Office, Oregon, New Hampshire, Guam, Georgia, Connecticut Sea Grants to do a 3-hour session to share ongoing work and journey to celebrate work being done in our coastal communities and inspire colleagues to give it a try. And we're excited to see the momentum, as the arts are invaluable to our ability to understand and engage. And last summer, we actually dedicated one of our summer fellowship projects in the Peter J. Rappa Resilient and Sustainable Coast Fellowship on understanding the wants, needs, and benefits of art in science programming in Hawaii. And Avalon Pareda, our student, recently graduated with a master's from Tropical Conservation Biology and Environmental Science at UH. And they study kapa, or Hawaiian bark cloth, natural resources, and oral histories. They interviewed practitioners, artists, and scientists, and people who identify as all of the above to gather their feedback. And what they found after speaking to 108 individuals, summarizing feedback, that while the benefits are obvious, some of the challenges identified are funding, communication of what sci art is and what the purpose of collaboration is, as well as alerting artists with enough time to engage, shipping and transportation of materials. So considerations for solutions include funding, outreach of sci art activities, networking, speaker series, grant writing, workshops for opportunities, and hosting events to make these activities more common and readily available. And just wanted to share one more upcoming sci art project that we have. The upcoming project is called the Symphony of the Hawaiʻi Seas, and this will be the third part to an ongoing collaborative series led by University of Hawaiʻi Mānoa. Previous projects have proven major successes in connecting youth to environment and the arts. The previous projects are Symphony of the Hawaiian Birds and Symphony of the Hawaiʻi Forest. They've both brought in over 13,000 students from Oʻahu in less than 3 years, from over 100 elementary, intermediate, and high schools, representing every part of the island of Oʻahu. And the Symphony of the Hawaiʻi Seas project is an interdisciplinary approach, so incorporates Hawaiian and local cultures, arts and sciences to engage K-12 students, educators, and residents with the ocean that sustains our islands. And it's aiming to amplify the stories that connect people to place through new music compositions and artistic expressions inspired by Hawaii's coastal and marine ecosystems. And this is this combination of a multimedia educational symphonic concert by the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra is an exciting opportunity to collaborate. So here's some of the early sketches, illustrations that will go with the video, cartoon, multimedia presentation that goes along with the symphony. And every participant is integral to the success of the program. So Native Hawaiian cultural stewards, storytellers, local composers, artists, and animators from the community, as well as from UH Mānoa College of Arts and Language and Letters, hula practitioners, educators, and expertise of our Sea Grant program all work together with the Hawaiʻi Symphony Orchestra to create this unique program that will reflect the values and culture of the residents of Hawaiʻi. And the symphony consists of 6 movements, and they follow a genealogical history of stories, beginning with the Kumulipo, moving through time to historical figures and events, recent memories, and contemporary issues that we are facing with the ocean, and the imagination of what our future generations want to create and imagine for themselves. And maintaining this connection with the ocean in Hawaii is critical towards sustainable, abundant, and resilient future. And it's rooted in the principles of malama ʻāina, caring for the land, malama kai, caring for the ocean. And the Symphony of the Hawaiʻi Seas nurtures our sense of responsibility to steward and protect the ocean and ecosystems for our ancestors, ourselves, and our future generations. And with that, just want to mahalo you folks for listening, and feel free to reach out if you have questions or want to connect. I'm Annie Rosa, and you can also ask Dr. Beth Lenz, and our email's up on the screen. Mahalo. Yeah, cool.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to put everybody up on the screen if Kelly and Emily want to come back on camera. And I just remind everybody, the Q&A panel is where you can add your questions, and then those will be shared with the audience and then shared with our speakers here. So I do have a first question, and I'm going to pop that up on the screen really briefly so everyone can see it. Sorry, Kelly, we're going to cover you up for a second, but does the Hawaiʻi Sea Grant offer these opportunities for artists on the Big Island?
Oh, awesome. Great question. Yeah, so Hawaiʻi Sea Grant is statewide. So we do have extension agents on Hawaii Island, and we would love to find out more. So for sure, contact us if you're interested in collaborating with us. We'd be happy to talk with you more about doing Hawaii Island or Big Island projects with you. Mahalo.
Thanks so much, Anne. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. Doesn't mean someone isn't typing furiously. But I do want to ask, you guys were talking a little bit about what was happening in 2022, 2023. And then, Anne, you were touching on a little bit of what is going on in the future. But also, Emily, are there current projects that you guys are excited about, or future projects with your science and the art community?
Yeah, so we have 4 artists that we funded in the 2023 cohort who are currently working on their projects. We have a local Savannah artist who's doing some pretty amazing illustrations of different types of marine life, wildlife, and she's talking about sort of human connections between us and animals, and how alligators raise their young, and drawing connections between that and human communities. So just trying to come up with new ways of connecting humans with nature through her project. We also have an artist who's creating a musical ensemble. So he's drawing inspiration from different sounds in the salt marsh and then creating an orchestral piece based on those sounds. So we're really excited about that one. And there's another artist who's done a dance interpretation that's trying to evoke, communicate how landscapes along the coast of Georgia are being developed and changing with development and human impact. So all 4 of those art projects are really exciting, and they're part of the Artists, Writers, and Scholars exhibition at Ships of the Sea right now. So that's great to see. But like I said, we're reviewing the next cohort now and should be announcing those in the next couple of months.
That is awesome. And did you want to talk more about the upcoming artist pieces from Hawaii?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the two kind of main big upcoming ones are the November exhibit, which would be another call for artists, exhibitions in the space, as well as speaker series, and then also the Symphony of the Hawaiʻi Seas, which is coming up. And that one, we also are doing effort to bring the schools together and highlight different programs that allow the students to get out and connect with the ocean. So kind of making a directory of the different opportunities to get out and connect with the ocean, learn about the ocean on their islands and in their communities, and connect them to current, ocean science curricula and those sorts of things, all surrounding with that Symphony of Hawaiʻi Seas project as well. Thanks.
Thanks for elaborating on that. So we have a really good question, and Kelly, maybe you can answer some of this too. For both programs, what process did you take to get these art programs started?
We'll let Anne and Emily start talk programs specifically, and just note that as we say for just about everything with Sea Grant, with 34 programs, there's 34 flavors of how we do everything. I think they all have different roots. Some are newer, some are quite old. The Sea Grant is a 50-year plus old program, so some have programming that has gone quite far back. And so I think you're going to find that there's quite the diversity of inspirations and roots, depending on who staff were involved and what their exposures were, who they've met along the way in terms of artists and influences. So I'll let Emily and Anne speak specifically to their programs and their roots.
Yeah, sure. I can jump in. Yeah, so some of it is, all of our folks that are out in the community and those types of activities, art-wise, culturally wise, that they connect with in their work and personally. And then other parts of it is, reaching out to the different artists and having a particular purpose that we want to collaborate with, as well as, having some of the bigger calls like we did for, open call for scientists, conservationists that do art, and that allows us to connect kind of with a broader group that's interested in kind of submitting and participating as well.
I'll chime in for artists, writers, scholars. So we essentially just had to allocate a portion of funding to this program, and then it was a matter of working together with staff in our organization to figure out what we wanted the RFP to look like. We'd established the goals of the program. We wanted to try and engage the community through art, connect them with nature in new ways. And once we'd established what the RFP would look like and what those guidelines would look like, it was a matter of reaching out to folks in the community that are big players in the art world. So in Savannah, we're home to Savannah College of Art and Design. We've got some connections to that college. Kind of helped us get our foot in the door in terms of establishing a network and reaching out to more folks to let them know about the program. So yeah, it really just involved building that network, and then we're slowly just continually trying to expand it and reach broader audiences, more inland communities, not just on the coast.
Thank you so much, Emily and Anne, for kind of highlighting that. And I think there is kind of a follow-up similar question here. Are there other programs like these in particular? Someone who's asking from Washington State, because they are a scientist and artist with NOAA. And I think Kelly kind of answered this where there's, 34 flavors. So Kelly, do you know anything particular about Washington Sea Grant?
So I don't know off the top of my head about their funding opportunities, but I will drop a couple links in the chat for the audience, a general link to contact Washington Sea Grant. But I also know that they had a really nice feature about some of their personnel and artistic ties. So I think that's worth reading. I'll put that link in the chat as well.
Thanks so much, Kelly. I'm not seeing any more pending questions, so I'm gonna see if there's any last minute things that Emily or Anne want to say about their programs, about Sea Grant in general. Just give you guys a little bit more time because we do have a few minutes left. And if you guys don't have anything extra to say because you did such an excellent job with your slides, I can move on and say that the NOAA Library will be hosting another one of these in the series. So today was our second, as I said at the very beginning, our second Science Communication Through the Arts series. And so our next one, we are hosting these about every other month. So our next one is going to be in August, I believe. And I might have to look a little harder to find that date for you guys. But stay tuned. We will be having this again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope everyone is staying cool out there. I want to thank our speakers again, Emily and Anne and Kelly. Thank you so much for giving us this delightful presentation and really highlighting the many, many ways that science can be communicated through the arts. I hope everyone has a safe, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.